Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Obscure Orations with your girls Taylor and Dana, or Tay and Dana, or Joe Dana. She has very many names.
I'm a very mysterious person.
You're a murderer. You're a murderess.
I'll never tell where the bodies are.
You'll never take me alive, coppers. So, as you can all probably tell, and if you watch the shit show of a promo video that we did before this.
Shit show.
We do not have a guest speaker with us today. However, I messaged my darling Dana the other day and said to her, "Do we not have a client?" She's like, "We do not.
We do not pay people." I sometimes think we should, but we don't.
Clientele? Well, no, clients pay us. That would be so much better. We need clients to pay us. We're doing this backwards. But we do not have a guest on today. And it made me excited because for some reason, and I, honest to God, do not know why, but I was suddenly filled with the desire to talk about murder. And it wasn't because I was in a murdery mood. It was just, suddenly I was like, oh, we can talk about murder this weekend. How do you feel about talking about murder this weekend?
And here we are both saying we're so excited.
I just said, I remember I sent you the message about it while you were in your class, and you then saying I had to just explain why I burst out laughing suddenly. What are you talking about this weekend? Oh, I don't know, but it's going to be something to do with murder. We swear we're not going to do the murders. Well, you know what? We'll add that disclaimer right now. We are in no way, shape, or form encouraging people to commit murder, nor are we planning to commit murder. We are just theorizing, hypotheticalizing, and talking about it.
And before we do proceed, I'm going to throw out a trigger warning because the one murder that I will be talking about does involve sexual assault, and in order for me to give you a better understanding of this case, I will have to go into some graphic detail. So trigger warning.
That's smart. We'll also add a hashtag for trigger warnings. That way people know ahead of time.
Yes.
So yes. So you know what? We'll jump right into it, and I'll start off with as per usual to how we used to do our episodes. I like to add in the definitions of. I looked up murder and serial killer because obviously they're used interchangeably but are different. Why are you giggling?
Because I'm just thinking if somebody ever got hold of our computers and looked at our Google history. Yeah. Star Wars, serial killers, murder. What the fuck?
You know, I'm just thinking about even the storybook idea. Well, not storybook, like it makes it sound like a fucking kid's book, but it's not. The story that I told you and V about yesterday that I was talking to Sonia about for the new idea. It's like, oh, no, I should probably add disclaimers. I'm not doing this. I swear I just write things. Please don't arrest me. Please do not look into my search history.
Do not call the police.
Don't call the popo. That should be the hashtag. Please don't call the popo. Please do not send them to my house. Please do not sick them on me. Please do not sick them on Dana. We just have ideas for murder that we do not intend to follow through on. I promise. So the definition of murder. Murder is the unlawful killing of another human without, and this is the thing, without justification or valid excuse committed with the necessary intention as defined by the law in a specific jurisdiction. This state of mind may, depending upon the jurisdiction, distinguish murder from other forms of unlawful homicide, such as manslaughter. So I know for me, growing up, I never understood the difference. Like, obviously, I watched a lot of Criminal Minds, CSI, NCIS,
Right.
all of the offshoots, all of those things. And for me, it was always one of those things of I didn't know there was a difference between. It's like, okay, I thought murder was murder. Like, you kill someone, that's it. You're a murderer.
Yeah.
I didn't know that it differed based on, like, there's vehicular, not vehicular, manslaughter. Obviously, like, if you're over in, I think it's France, Spain, and Italy, could be all of Europe, I'm not sure. They have crimes of passion where you do something in the heat of the moment, and it's because you become mentally unstable, so to speak, in that particular moment, that it's not necessarily considered murder, as it's a crime of passion. So
Right.
I can remember hearing about it when I think it was a Frenchman killed his mistress because she was sleeping with another guy, and he yep.
The fact he was cheating on his wife.
Yeah, I was gonna say, the wife was like, "Oh yeah, go kill her. That's fine. Haha, no more competition for me." And it was one of those where it's like, "Oh, he's going away for murder," and they're like, "Oh no, it's a crime of passion because it was an instant reaction. He went and did it. It wasn't premeditated." Where he took several days and went, "Yes, yes, I shall peel back the layers of his flesh and slowly kill him." Like no, it was just an instant, bam, you went and did it. Now, here in Canada, I don't think we have a true to form crime of passion laws. I think it's just basically manslaughter or murder. We don't care about the details past that point. We're just like, you did it. You killed the person, you did it. Now, the other thing that I can remember looking up, I'm pretty sure it was because of Criminal Minds, and I was curious about what the difference is between a murderer and a serial killer. Like, what technically classifies someone to become known as a serial killer. So, according to the definition, a person who commits a series of murders, often with no apparent motive and typically following a characteristic or pattern. A serial killer is a person who murders at least 2 or 3 people, with the killings taking place over a significant period of time in separate events. So, if you go and kill several people in one hit, so to speak, then it's not a serial killer. You just got one group of people, just a mass killing at that point.
Right.
Versus now, if you do that multiple times in multiple different places, then you become known as a serial killer or a serial offender. So now that we all have the same definitions, would you like to start?
Sure. I will start, and then I will let you do your 2, as long as you leave Pig Farmer to your second one, because my second one connects.
Ooh. All right. I can definitely do that because I have, let's see, I have, okay, yep, that's Pig Farmer here. Okay, there's the one. Yes. Okay, so I can do her first. So I technically have 3, so to speak. So I can easily put Pig Farmer at the end for it.
Okay, thank you.
People are probably listening to this going, what the fuck?
So I spent the day drinking yesterday. Well, I was a designated driver. I drank water and Coke Zero. my husband and our friend drank beer. So I did my research at 6 o'clock this morning.
When the cat woke you up.
The cat woke me up to feed him. Fat fuck. So Taylor and I come from Windsor, Ontario. It is Southern Ontario. We are a border city to Detroit, Michigan. I was not even 2 months old when this murder happened. So I'm going to go back to 1971. Yes, I just told you my age.
Picture it. Windsor, Greater Essex County.
So it was the murder of a 6-year-old girl named Ljubica Topic. And it happened May 14th, 1971. And for 48 years, that murder was unsolved.
Really?
Yes.
God damn. It's a little weird that that was exactly, what was that? I was in 92, so that's 71. So that was exactly 21 years to the day before my birth. I just waited a couple lifetimes. It's fine.
So, of course, at the 1971, the murder of a small child, though unfortunately not unknown, pretty much rocked Windsor because it had literally never happened in Windsor.
Mm-hmm.
A murder of this magnitude. And this is where the trigger warning is going to come into effect. She was playing outside of her house on Drewlard Road. And
which I'll add for anyone who's not from the area, Drewlard Road, like in that area, is a more like the bad part of town. So even though it's not,
it's on the upswing.
Yeah, I would say it's gotten better over the years, but I can remember it was where, I can't remember if it was a help center at one point in time was down there, and one of the girls that I knew came into the gym because she worked there at the help center, and she came in, she was late for her workout, so I had gone to call her, and she was like, oh yeah, I'm on my way now. Got there, and it was one of those times of her telling us, she was like, oh yeah, sorry, I'm late, a guy got shot in the head today. And we were like, see, this is why we don't go down to Drewlard. She was like, oh, he's still alive.
Yeah, so the 80s and the early 90s, Drewlard was considered a bad area.
Yeah.
But it is coming back. They've restructured it to Ford City.
Yeah.
Anywho, we don't need to get on the history of Drewlard Road.
No, but now you guys have an idea for the general vicinity of, it's not a great place, especially not back then.
So she was playing outside of her house on Drewlard Road when she was lured away with the promise of money, which 1971, obviously from her name, her family's immigrants, lured away with the promise of money, where she was sexually assaulted and murdered. She was found about 2 kilometers away from her home near an alley. Now, I had to, when I say I researched, I had to go back into police records that are now open to the public on her murder. And again, trigger warning, I'm sorry, friends. When they found her body, the perpetrator had bitten her repeatedly to the point where he bit off her nipples, her breasts. Sexually assaulted her, full penetration, but it wasn't just that. He used almost like a broom handle. So this, one can only hope that she was actually dead by the time that happened, so that she didn't have to endure that. So it was a very, very, very gruesome murder. And the fact that it happened to a 6-year-old child. Police scour the neighborhood. They're looking for clues. The whole area of Drouillard Road is quarantined off like blocks and blocks. Volunteers, her family's like, and as the years go on, there's no leads. There's nothing. The police receive hundreds and hundreds of tips on their tip line or crime stoppers or whatever you want to call them, from all over Canada and the US, but nothing panned out. The case was closed and reopened 6 times.
Jesus.
In the 1970s. That's just in the 1970s, so 9 years. In 9 years, that case was opened and shut 6 times. In 2015, the police revealed that they had a profile of a suspect. After doing DNA on 2 pieces of evidence that they had never made public at that time, like back in 1971. DNA wasn't heard of back then.
I was just going to say, that's the, excuse me, that's the, benefit's really the right word, but the benefit of keeping all of those things for decades is that you think about how far technology has come since then, because I don't think DNA was a thing until, was it the 90s or 2000? Like, it was not a big...
Yeah, somewhere around there.
Yeah, I say, because they didn't have really a database to go to, whereas now it can be like instantaneous. Here you go, everything's connected.
So, the evidence that they were able to do the DNA testing on was the perpetrator. When he bit her so hard, one of his teeth was embedded in her flesh.
Jesus Christ.
So they had that tooth.
Mm-hmm.
They had also taken imprints of the bite marks to use against dentist imageries type thing. In the course of the 48 years of trying, 48 years of trying to actually say the case was closed, the Windsor police had over 500 persons of interest that they looked into. 500. Windsor's not big. It's like 300,000 people.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we're just under that. Like, if we do all of Greater Essex County, then I think then we hit 300,000, because I think Windsor's only now at 275 or 280 maybe.
Yeah, I think it has decreased.
Somewhere around there.
In 2019, the Windsor police came forward and said they had solved the murder. That they had solved it. They knew who did it, but they weren't going to release his name. And the general public and the media were like, the fuck you're not.
Yeah, I should say so.
Yeah, you're going to tell us who did this, because for 48 years we've been living in fear on Drouillard Road.
Yeah.
So, as it was, it turned out that the animal that did this lived in the 1800 block of Drouillard, less than 2 kilometers away from the Topic family. And his name was Frank Arthur Hall. And at the time that he did that, he was 22 years old.
Jesus.
Now, unfortunately, because DNA didn't happen until the early 2000s, though he was a suspect, they didn't have enough to go on to say he did it. In 2015, when they did the DNA, and they were able to actually take those dental imprints and go Canada-wide with them. That's when they realized that this motherfucker had moved to Edmonton. So he committed the murder. When things got a little bit too hot and spicy, he fled, knowing that there would be nothing for them to do to say, you know.
Well, yeah, so without hard evidence to prove that it was him, they couldn't actually detain him here.
Yeah, so he moved to Edmonton, where he lived out his life and died at the age of 70 before he could be convicted of that crime. So even though the case was solved after 48 years, they know he did it. He was never convicted because he got the opportunity to fucking die before they could catch him.
I was just going to say that he got away with murder just because he actually died. Because, I mean, I know there's been other cases where they caught a criminal only like now in current times because of being able to do exactly just what they did with that, where they used the new technology available to us to be able to say, we got you. And it was, I want to say it was a news article within the past couple of years that my mom had read to me about a guy who had done something, but he was in his mid to late 70s, and they were like, well, you're still being convicted, so congratulations, you're going to jail for life.
Yeah.
And I mean, at that point in time, obviously, they're not going to serve out their entire sentence because they're already near the end of their life. But at the same time, at least, some form of justice was had, whereas this guy got to get away with it. And I'd be curious, like, were there any other unsolved murders in Ontario or Alberta
that had the same MO?
Exactly, that had the same things to it.
And that was brought up when Windsor police in 2019 said that they had solved the case and that Frank Hall had passed away in Edmonton. Media started, and again, we're also in the age of social media too now, right? So social media and printed media started asking those questions. Have you looked at unsolved murders Canada-wide that have the same MO as what Lubica went through? Of course, I'm not saying I don't like the police, but of course, the answer was, we don't have time to look at all of Canada's cold cases to figure out if an already dead murderer committed other murders. Yeah, like, let's not give those families closure. But so it today, and we're in 2024, it still remains Windsor's most talked about, most gruesome murder.
And I mean, you can see why, because that is such a, like, it's one of those things that I kind of wish that he would have lived, not just to be able to go to jail, but because I'd be very curious to understand his thinking as to why did he do it, what caused it. It obviously, like, to me, it reads as something very personal, like the trauma that he put her body through
Yeah.
between the sexual assault, the using a foreign object to sexually assault her,
And the biting.
honestly, the biting, the tearing flesh, the biting so hard that he lost a tooth from it. All of it to me says and screams that it's a very personal attack for him.
Yeah.
And for something for that, it's like it's either, I mean, it could have been a crime of something like he just really hated the family for some reason. But I mean, to me, it sounds more like there was a hate towards foreigners specifically and
So
had the opportunity to get her for it.
yeah. So when the police first started their investigation, at the time, Windsor had a very small Serbian/Croatian community. But what they did have was all centered in the Drouillard area. So,
Okay.
Immigrants from Serbia and Croatia would come over. Their families would say, "Come to Windsor. It's great here. We love it." These families would come over and they want to be around their people, so they would buy a house in
the Drouillard area.
In the Drouillard area, whether it be Cadillac, Albert, St. Luke, and even today, if you go around there, you're gonna find Serbian churches, Croatian churches. Those people still live there. That it's still a big community in that area. So a lot of speculation was because of where Frank lived in retrospect to where the Topic family lived. It could be, and the age difference, it could be that he was a very racist person and did not approve of foreign families moving into his neighborhood. And in his sick, twisted mind, may have used the theory of, if I brutally kill somebody, a young person, a child, they're going to go home. It didn't work.
That's an understatement, that's for sure. And I mean, I'm glad that it didn't work, because that's just, like, I don't even have words for how disturbed he must have been to even contemplate that idea and then follow through with it. And I mean, so in Windsor, there was actually a stretch of time where for two 2 or 3 years where we had absolutely zero murders in all of Greater Essex County. We actually made records because we had absolutely no murders. There was very minimal violent crime during that period of time. So we're not a particularly violent area. Like, I mean, Canada as a whole, obviously substantially lower than America, but we tend to not have a lot of the violence around here. It's gotten worse as the years have gone on between the recessions, the depressions, all that kind of stuff. COVID obviously has hit hard. So to have such a violent, brutal, cruel murder like that in the city, especially at that time in the 70s, like, you're talking times pre-cell phones, pre-internet. You would let your kids go out and wander the streets alone all day long. They just had to be home when the lights came on.
Yeah.
So it's a very different era that happened in, and it makes it, in my opinion, like, it makes it even worse because you hit people during a point in time when it was the the safer ages where you're supposed to just have a lighthearted childhood, and instead she not only lost her childhood, but her family was left with the trauma of what happened to her.
Yeah, exactly. And I believe that her mother is still alive, along with what would have been her brother. So when the police did say that they actually solved it, they were able to have their
Closure.
closure to know, like, what happened to for their mom, what happened to her daughter.
Mm-hmm.
48 years, like, who did it, who
Yep.
would do something like that. Again, unfortunately, the fucking prick died and he didn't have to suffer, although one can only hope that he had some painful form of cancer and no medication.
Well, if he had...
I'm sorry, friends, I am a huge fan of capital punishment.
I'm all for that. Like, in situations like that, he deserved nothing but the worst form of punishment, because that's beyond unacceptable behavior. Like, it's bad enough in circumstances to murder another human being as it is, but to go and be that brutally and vicious, nah.
Yeah.
I hope that he had pancreatic cancer, because there's absolutely no cure for that one, and it is the most painful one for a human to go through. May he have had that.
Yeah, I honestly wish that when I had looked him up, they had said that he died full of pain and agony. But they didn't. They just said he died at the age 70.
And you're like, well, I hope it was bad.
And it was interesting because they left out whether he married and had children of his own.
I was going to say, that would be the curious part to me. Like, okay, did he end up having his own family? Was he abusive to his own family? Did he, like, there's so many questions that I would now have.
Yeah.
That would be like, okay, well, now that we know this, did he have all of these families? Did he have any of this stuff? Does he have a family that has to change their name now and say, nope, I don't know who that guy was. We're not related to him.
Yeah.
There's so many more questions now.
Exactly.
So, to go from that one, which was the most well-known and grisly murder in Windsor, our town, I'm now going to take us back to the first recorded murder in all of history. So, obviously, everyone always knows the biblical story of Cain and Abel killing the brother, all that fun stuff.
Cain slew Abel, if I remember.
Yep. As far as I remember, that was how it was.
I was going to say, if I remember the movie Dogma, because I didn't read the Bible. God bless you, Kevin Smith.
How do you know your Bible references from Dogma?
Kevin Smith taught me.
He taught me everything I know. Along with what was the name of the comedian? Why, I can't think of. He had the, like, 7 words that he couldn't say: tit, fuck, cunt, motherfucker. Oh, I can't think of his name now, but he was the priest in it, which made it even
George
funnier.
Carlin.
There we go, George Carlin. Thank you. Go through my teachers.
Cardinal Glick. He played Cardinal Glick. Oh yeah, don't even ask me. Don't even get me started on that movie. That's in my top 5.
Oh my god. So, obviously, the most, like, common one known is Cain and Abel, because it was obviously perpetrated by the Bible across all the different ethnicities, all the different Christian groups, and there's always shared similarities between religion to religion. However, scientifically speaking, the oldest known murder happened 430,000 years ago. So, almost 500,000 years ago was the first murder. And it happened over in Spain, and I won't even try to pronounce the Spanish in it.
Oh, come on.
Don't worry, listeners, I'm not going to do it. So it's a fairly I'd say brutal murder, considering the timelines where you look at things. This actually predates Neanderthals, and it's like, I don't know, like one or two generations before that kind of thing for namings. And I'm not even going to try to pronounce those either because I don't understand them. I hear them said, I'm like, okay, not what we are. So it's fine. It's homo. That's how I understand Latin.
They're human. That's all you need to know.
I was going to say, they're human-like. They're our ancestors. That's all that matters. So apparently what had happened was that there's a place called the Pit of Bones in Spain, and paleontologists were there finding all the human remains. And there's, I think it was 30-something different individuals in this area.
Oh.
One of them, however, when they found the skull, they put it back together, all 53 fucking pieces of it, which, as much as I enjoy puzzles, I would have gotten frustrated and said, fuck this shit, I'm out.
God bless their tenacity.
Right? 3D puzzle from hell. So they put it all back together, and when they did, it was basically like you put a puzzle back together and you realize two pieces were missing, so you'd never get to complete the puzzle. But what had happened was that there were two identical holes in the skull, clearly made by a weapon. So it'd be like taking a pen and jabbing it in, and you'd be able to see, okay, there's one pen mark, and then they did it again. There's the exact same injury in a different location. So showing that obviously at some point in time, someone got mad. I don't know what they did, but something happened. So they took a weapon of some sort and went bam, bam to the head, then unceremoniously took them and threw them down a 43-foot deep cave shaft to obviously dispose of the body. So they know that this is different from all of the other bodies that they found down there because the other bodies didn't have head wounds or wounds of any sort. So when bodies get wounded, obviously for anyone who's watched any sort of criminal show, we know that marks get left behind. Like if there's a serrated blade or something, you'll see the marks left behind in the actual bone because it'll grade across it. If there's any sort of puncture wounds, it will stay there. So there was absolutely no healing from the wound marks, from the two puncture marks that were in the skull. So they know that it obviously killed the person basically instantly, because the body's instant reaction is the moment that you get cut, your body instantly starts healing back up. There's no hesitation. Your body just goes, oh, that's not supposed to be like that. We're losing fluids. Let's close this back up. And in this, wait, those are supposed to be on the inside. Whereas in this case, there was zero healing. So the person obviously went, bam, bam, toss. They were like, he's dead. Bye, George, you're out.
So I have to ask, obviously this was a pit where they threw bodies of deceased people that were not murdered. Because if there were 48 bodies down there, and only one had holes in their head. Oh.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
That is a perfect spot to hide a body.
Right?
In a pit of dead people.
That was exactly my thought. And that's what, like, later on, I believe her name is Dr. Sala. I could be saying it wrong. Sorry ahead of time if I am. She's a paleontologist, one of the leads in it, who were going through and looking at all the bodies. And she said that what actually they found was that with each of the bodies, it was actually more of a kind of like a cemetery, because the bodies were actually handled with care. Like they could do, obviously, there's testing now that you can do. You can see, I'm going to say, remains left in the bones of when people are sick. If we get sick enough, there are literal marks that are left in our bones to show, hey, you had cancer. Hey, you had malaria. Hey, you had whatever, because it eats away at bones sometimes and leaves its mark. So I can remember learning that. I think that was in one of the webinars that my mom and I watched for doctor-y things. So, we were not watching for murder. Let me add this right now.
Okay.
I swear to God, it was not about murder. It was about mold and other illnesses, I swear.
I believe you.
For any of our listeners, I swear. So illnesses leave their mark on the human body. So they're able to go through and they can see that one of the bodies, I'm going to guess, probably had like scoliosis in their spine. So the spine's greatly deformed. And it shows signs of that the people actually were taking care of them and trying to watch after them. And then when they passed on, they put them down the shaft.
Right.
And it's different from other scenarios and other civilizations, so to speak, because in a lot of cases, obviously this must have been some level of caring and loving for those of the dead that were down there, because they weren't just taken and tossed out into the desert and left. They weren't just like, well, they're dead. Here you go, Grandma. You go feed the coyotes now. They were actually buried under the earth and left there. So obviously, whoever did the murder 430,000 years ago took the time to kill the person instantly and then went, you know where a really good place is? Like you said, Dana, let's toss them down the shaft with the other dead people. They're not going to notice the smell. They're not going to notice that they're gone. It's just going to be, well, you're dead. So
another one added to the pile.
Ain't no one down there counting. Well, at least no one was down there counting 430,000 years ago. Now we're counting.
So obviously that's an unsolved mystery.
I would say so, and I think it's going to stay that way. Until we get the little time bubbles where we can put on a little time watch, go back in time and be like, okay,
I want to see how that murder happened.
I knew it. It was Jeremy who did it with the chandelier stick over there and just took him and bam. It's going to be like the oldest version of Clue. So what I found interesting for this is just showing that obviously murder has been a part of humanity the entire way along. There's never been a point in time where it's not been like, the guy didn't die of natural causes. He was brutally smashed upon the head and then shoved down a cave shaft to be with the rest of the dead going, all right, he's gone. So to me, it's interesting to see that our murders go way the hell back. And I mean, it shows, for me, it shows that there's the connection to our animalistic side, where we already know, whether people like to admit it or not, because it drives me absolutely batshit crazy, listening to people when they say, oh, well, animals don't have war or kill each other for no reason. It's like, no, I have watched enough of Animal Planet to see that they do, and I've been traumatized by it because I had the thought of, animals, they're so sweet and that. No,
right?
Monkeys. I say, have you seen when monkeys launch war against each other?
Yes.
They literally take the females, sexually assault them. Because I can remember the one, they came in, they took the females, sexually assaulted them, they ate the dead of their enemies. Which, keep in mind, monkeys aren't known for eating meat. Like, they might eat some bugs, and there's even one group, I don't want to say the wrong group, but it was one of the ones in a more recent animal documentary where these monkeys only eat vegan. They only eat vegetables, nothing but, until these other baby monkeys were around. And the one female monkey acted as a distraction to get the parents to leave it so that the rest of the troop could come in, grab the babies, tear them to pieces, and eat them as a family. Yep.
And okay, kids, we're going to eat vegan until, barbecue.
We're vegan until we see little Timmy next door. So it just shows, like, to me, that's one of those things that it shows the connection that we still have to our animalistic side, where it's like, okay, clearly there's still genes that float around up in here and in our bodies that go, you know what we should do? Murder. Why should we do it? I don't know. Timmy crossed the line. What line was that? It was an invisible one, but he stepped on the crack.
Doesn't matter. He crossed it.
Back. now we must eat him. That's clearly the only option that we have. Come here, Timmy. Let's go. You distract the parents. I got Timmy. We're going to slow roast him. Don't worry. So it's just like I said, to me, it was interesting to see, because I was curious what the first murder in history was going to be. I was expecting it to be something like, I was thinking like it'd be like ancient Egypt or ancient Rome or ancient Mesopotamia. Like I was thinking something like that. I was not prepared for basically, 500,000 years ago, we found a body from back then. He was killed. I was like, okay. And then my thought was the usual, like, well, how do you know that it wasn't some sort of battle or something? And they're like, oh yeah, the bodies that were down here were actually the like infirm and sick who had been taken care of and passed on naturally. So their bodies are down here. His is the only one that actually had murder.
He's the only one that had holes in his head. Although one could say that the Spaniards were attempting to discover the lobotomy and just did it wrong.
Well, if we hit up here, it gets us into that squishy thing that's in there. It'll be fine. George, why aren't you breathing, George? Oh, quick, toss him down the hole. Shit. Yeah, exactly. That moment of quick, toss him in there. Now, in my case, if anyone wants to read more, I found like there was a bunch of articles from it. The one article that was the most informative, though, for me was the National Geographic one. That's the one that had the most information for it. So If they want to look into it, they can look on there. Now, okay, so you want me to keep Pig Farmer till the end, so I'll skip him. Now, this next one, I don't know why. I just randomly wanted to know. I wanted to know places outside of Canada or America, because obviously a lot of places know that obviously America has, like, I think the highest murder rate in the entire world. Then you go over and you have England. You have a lot of well-known murders or unsolved mysteries. Like the number one that people know over there is Jack the Ripper. Yeah. Like that's one of the most famous ones. So I wanted to try and find something that would be different from it. And I actually looked up the first murder in Ireland. Now, there were some different accounts for it. However, the first murder in Ireland that they classify was by, and I might be saying this wrong in case anyone hears, I'm sorry. It's not a common name over here, but Darky Kelly, which isn't a name over here at all. Kelly, yes. Darky, no. Or could be Darky. So apparently, you're gonna be okay.
Racist. Yes, I can see why that name is no longer used.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I'm not thinking that it would be a good one to have in today's age. I mean, this is from what was this? 1700s. So
very nice.
Which to me also was weird because Darky, Miss Kelly, because I can pronounce that one and know that I'm saying it right, was apparently accused of the usual of that time, being a
witchcraft.
Witch. There we go. So she was accused of being a witch, devil worshiper, and
they
supposedly
go hand in hand.
Oh yeah, of course. You can't have one without the other. It's like what's it?
Love and Marriage.
Love and Marriage. There we go. You knew immediately what I was going on. I'm like, what was it? God damn it! I used to sing this all the time. Goes together like a horse and carriage. Witchcraft and devil worship. So she was accused of being Ireland's first serial killer, which, as we now know, means that she killed more than 2 people in 2 separate events. So, and apparently those were just a few of the titles that were bestowed upon her by the wonderful people that she kept in that town. So, I don't know why, but my immatureness always laughs at the name. She was born in the 1700s as Dorcas. which I have heard. See, you can't not laugh. Like I become a child at home and go, Dorcas.
I can remember calling people that name in grade school and not in a fun way.
Yeah, I was just going to say exactly. You'd walk and be like, hey, Dorcas. Like, so to hear it as an actual name, I'm like, it takes you immediately back to grade school. I'm like, that would not have been a good name to be called now. So here's some other fun facts about her. She ran a brothel.
Oh, hey.
Hey, girl, hey.
Girls got to make a living.
Well, and the impressive thing is she ran it. So it means that she was the madam of the house. She wasn't even one of the hosts. She was like, bitch, you go spread your legs. I'm going to take the money.
Nice.
So apparently she ran a brothel on Fishamble Street. It's a very, very interesting name. In Dublin city centre. So she was actually in the main city. I mean, obviously, it would have been 1700s, not as well built up as it is now, but it was still a very well-known place. So not much is known about her life, but she was burned at the stake for witchcraft. And supposedly it was after she sacrificed her baby to the devil in 1746. However, in 2011, because obviously people were still curious about her, in 2011, researchers debunked the theory when they discovered that the sex worker was actually publicly executed in 1761 for the murder of shoemaker Patrick Dowling on March 17th the year previously. So she was actually convicted of murder. I'm sure even at the time she was probably convicted of murder, told she was a devil worshiper, probably thought that she was a witch because she was a female at that time. And I just have a feeling like she probably told him no one time and he went, I'll show you, burn you at the stake, we will.
Witch!
Exactly. Witch. She's a witch. Why is she a witch? She wouldn't have sex with me. Witch.
What is the irony, though, that Ireland's first murder was committed on St. Patrick's Day?
Oh. I didn't even think of that fact. You're right. That's a good point.
Interesting.
You know what? Looking at that fact,
let's celebrate.
I was to say, you know what? Looking at that fact, it kind of adds a layer to it. Now going with my false theory, because I'll like this is just obviously not much is known of what happened because it happened in the 1700s.
Right.
So they can only kind of piece together what they can now without 100% of all the information. But now that you point out that it was on March 17th, obviously you're talking big celebrations, drunkenness, lechery, all of the sexual acts. And the fact that she was a brothel owner does kind of make me wonder now if he wasn't some, what we call over here, Johns. And I think that's
a disgruntled John.
Yeah, I was to say, if he was a disgruntled John, came at her or one of her girls, and she killed him because he was probably drunk, abusive, like trying to have his way.
It could have been not so much murder as it was self-defense.
Yeah. I'd be curious now just because of you pointing that out.
Solving Ireland's first murder.
We figured it out.
Super sleuths.
We got this. All because we pieced it together. All right. Come to us for all further murder details. We've got this under wings here. We got it. So so apparently it was after this, a theory began to emerge that she was the serial killer after a newspaper report suggested that 5 bodies were found beneath the floorboards of her brothel. So, I mean, it's one of those things.
And we're known to be violent back then, so let's be honest.
So there's apparently a researcher out there right now in 2022, PhD researcher Shannon Hughes Spence, who has interest in women, witches, and murder. So basically the same thing we have interests in. Took it upon herself to investigate whether or not Darky was in fact a serial killer. So I didn't see anything to show any conclusive findings yet from the PhD person. But obviously that just would have been a couple years ago because we're only now in 2024. So it could be a little bit longer before we got any sort of definitive answers. I'd be curious to know, like, obviously, again, you're talking about the 1700s. You don't have DNA ability available to you back then. She was a brothel worker, owned the brothel. How many of the Johns got belligerent? I mean, you even look in today's world, brothels became legal in Canada, was that like a decade ago now? Maybe half a decade ago?
Yeah.
Somewhere in there. It's been a while now. So escorts have been legal in Windsor specifically the entire time. There's never been a point in time where they haven't been, and to use code words, all that fun stuff that you see like on TV. Then Canada finally decided, they're like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to make brothels legal. It'll actually protect the working women because they'll have a safe place to be at. Cops can go in and not raid the workers, but take away the Johns who are belligerent, trying to cause damage or anything like that. You think about it back then, you didn't have that option. There were brothels. It wasn't that they were legal or not illegal. It's kind of that gray area. But you probably had a lot of officials who would come and be like, hey, yeah, well, you suck my dick and I might help you out, maybe. Go ahead. Get down there. Get to work. And this was also pre, a lot of showers. There's a lot of sweating.
Oh, stinky ballsack.
Yeah, I was just going to say, that right there would be enough for me to be like, no, you know what? You're just going to get murdered now. I'm going to murder your face. Get on.
Nah, go have your friend suck it.
Yeah. We done here.
We done here.
I've seen what you do with that. We out. So I'm very curious to see if there's anything that comes from the research, if it proves that, yes, in fact, she was a serial killer, and it just so happened that she accidentally got caught, or was it that were those 5 bodies actually murdered by others, whether they were other patrons, maybe other girls that she had working for her, and it was self-defense in some of their cases? Like, there's many questions that, again, unsolved mysteries, so to speak, just because of the other bodies being found, not having all the accounts. And obviously we're talking about when men had the complete upper hand in this scenario,
right?
Where it would just be, oh, well, yeah, whore killed a guy over there. Clearly we got a killer. Clearly she's a witch. Clearly she worships the devil. We're also going to say that she sacrificed her baby to the devil. And yeah, we're going to burn her at the stake. This all sounds good to me. So again, I would love to have that little bubble, go back in time, watch and go, oh. I'm not sure which way it would go, whether it be like, aha, she was defending herself, or, oh, no, she's fucked in the head. She's like, yeah, come here. We're going to sleep together. Death, death, death.
Poke, poke, poke.
Exactly. You know what you could use? A few new air holes. Because who couldn't use a few new air holes? Sometimes they're fun. All right. So now we will get on to, are you ready for the pig farmer, or do you have another one?
I am.
Okay.
Well, I have one.
That's related to the pig farmer.
It's sort of related. If you want me to go, it's fine. I'll go.
Yep, then we're good.
Clifford Olson.
Why do I know that name?
Clifford Olson is known as Canada's first modern recognized serial killer. And you would think that it might have happened in like the 60s or 70s or even the 40s. No, it was 1981. 1981 is when Canada first recognized a serial killer.
And again, that shows right there how low our serial killer rate is.
Exactly. So, Clifford Olson, Canada's first modern recognized serial killer, was convicted of killing 11 young people between the ages of 9 and 18 in 1 year.
Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So he was caught in 1982. His conviction stood in 1982. This took place in the lovely, gorgeous province of British Columbia, which is on the west coast of Canada. And it happened in Vancouver.
Really?
And I've never been to the west coast of Canada. Someday I'd like to go. Vancouver in 1981 was referred to as the little village at the end or at the edge of the rainforest. Little village, Vancouver? Okay, but whatever.
Sure, okay.
You British Columbians, call it what you want.
It's just the little village over there.
So, what prompted it was a 9-year-old vanished without a trace. And for the first time in Canadian history, hysteria. Not sure if that 9-year-old sparked the search or that 9-year-old was what caused British Columbia police, Vancouver police, to look deeper into Clifford Olson. So, they started locking their doors. They never locked their doors. They never shut windows. It was nothing bad happened.
Mm-hmm.
So they weren't afraid of anything until children started disappearing at an alarming rate. So you got to figure that's probably one a month.
Yeah, because you said it was 11?
11.
Yeah, that would be one a month for him to be just up and taken.
So media started saying, walk your kids to school.
Mm-hmm.
Escort your children to a friend's house. Don't let them go out alone. Children should be in groups, blah, blah, blah. And a lot of people in British Columbia have said that this instance in Vancouver history is when British Columbia lost its innocence. For whatever that means. I didn't delve too deep, but it honestly could be Vancouver's first murder. I'm not sure.
But I was going to say, by the sounds of it, it sounds like it.
So the hysteria over the missing child, the missing 9-year-old that was abducted, and the other adolescents was the flames were fanned by the U.S. media. God bless you, U.S. media, because at the time, and y'all can go check this out if you like, or you can just watch, there's a program on Netflix, The Two FBI Agents.
Oh. FBI agents.
I can't remember. Mindhunter.
Oh, yes.
So,
My mom loves that show.
what sparked the frenzy in BC was the fact that at the same time in Atlanta, Georgia, Wayne Williams was caught and charged with killing 24 children.
Jesus.
So, Olson was arrested on August 12th, 1981, because he was trying to abduct two hitchhikers on Vancouver Island. So he was convicted in 1982, making him Canada's first serial murder. Here's the fun part of all this. He didn't claim innocence. He pled guilty.
Really?
He had no qualms in saying, I did it. But when he pled guilty, he cried. The victims' families weren't buying his crocodile tears. It only, again, fueled the fire, right?
Uh-huh.
And it gets better because the police, the Vancouver police, paid Olson, who at the time was 41 years old, a habitual con man, criminal. He has a record.
Uh-huh.
They paid him $100,000 in cold hard cash, $10,000 for each body that he led them to.
Jesus.
The 11th one he didn't charge them for. That was a freebie.
Oh, how thoughtful of him.
Oh, I know, right? Why the police had to pay him? Beyond me, but I get it. They wanted to find the bodies, give the families closure. There's photos. You can go check, Google, look him up, Wikipedia him. There are photos of him leading a cavalcade of OPP, or RCMP, pardon me, RCMP police, and he's got, and anybody that knows what a Mountie looks like, because RCMP stands for the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, usually on horsebacks, but they do drive cars. Anybody that knows what their official uniform is, they wear Stetsons. So he was wearing an RCMP Stetson as he led the RCMP around of the lower mainland of Vancouver, shallow grave after shallow grave after shallow grave. 11 shallow graves. He was married.
Really?
He had a son. Yes. So Clifford Robert Olson Jr. His son is Clifford Robert Olson III. And at the time of his conviction, the Crown, because his son was an infant, 9 months old, the Crown decided that they would give Olson's wife $90,000 a year to take care of the boy. What is wrong with this? Victims' families fought that.
I mean, I'm glad.
And it turned into where a lawyer got involved. A lawyer for the Crown actually said, listen, the money's going into a trust. And Mrs. Olson is not going to get any of it. I'm not sure what actually happened to the money. Personally, if I was Clifford Olson III, I'd be like, don't want your fucking blood money. Mm-hmm. Like, I don't want any income from my father giving up bodies, right?
Yeah.
So his criminal past, in 1976, he was serving a sentence for conning people. He was a con man. Now, it didn't say how many cons he was convicted for. It just said he was serving a sentence. He got out in 1980.
Jesus, he wasted no time.
Which means he was released from prison and became Canada's first modernly recognized serial killer within a year.
God damn.
Where he killed 11 adolescents, let's say, because you're not really an adult till you're 18. So 9 persons between 9 and 18. He was arrested. He was given life after life after life after life sentence because Canada does not recognize the death penalty. Uh-huh. That should be changed. He was transferred to a prison in Laval, Quebec, where he died in 2011.
In Quebec, you say?
In Quebec. Laval, Quebec. So it's interesting that the RCMP paid Olson $100,000 to basically snitch on himself. He was a rat. He ratted himself out, pled guilty, and had struck a deal with the RCMP that they would pay him for the location of the bodies.
I mean, I've heard of making deals with them, but I haven't heard
it's for
like reduced sentences or privileges.
Or a step down in what the charges are. So it could be from like murder 1 to manslaughter.
Yeah, exactly.
Not hard cash.
They're like, oh yeah, you want to give us the body? We'll take this from you.
The RCMP literally paid him in $1,000 bills. Jesus. Which, again, Google, my fine friends, there are photographs. Why? I don't know, but there are photographs of him handcuffed to the table, shit-eating grin on his face, while the RCMP officers fucking counting out money on the table.
Yeah, no. All of the no. That should not have been a thing whatsoever.
And the history of Olson here doesn't say what happened to that $100,000.
I would say that's what I'd be curious about.
It just says that after his conviction, the Crown decided that they would, I guess, stipend his infant son with a $90,000 a year income.
Yep.
Which, by the way, was for his life.
Jesus.
Not until he was 18 and could get a fucking job, but for his life. The RCMP needs better negotiators.
Yeah, I was going to say, I feel like they were ill prepared for that one, and their response was, I don't know, give them money, I guess.
Money means bodies. So, yeah. But he, like I said, he died September 30th, 2011 in a prison in Laval.
So
his wife divorced him in 1985, by the way.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah. It only took her 3 years after conviction.
Well, I would assume that it wouldn't be easy to get divorced from a serial killer. Not to mention,
I think it would be super easy because there's no way a judge would contest that divorce. He wouldn't even have to sign papers. It would depend. Not even worried about how long they were married. I'm pretty sure it would be annulled on the spot if you.
I don't know.
Oh God, I gotta look. You know what? I'm gonna look into that.
I was just gonna say, yeah. Now we're gonna have to Google that after this episode, just because I don't know. I know, obviously, like, I've seen stuff on TV that it's not as simple as it looks. So I'd be curious.
How easy is it to divorce a serial killer in Canada? Oh, Google.
Another one of those great research search bars for when they come and search your house. Basically, just sit there and be like, "Oh, Norm is a serial killer. I need to know if I can divorce him or not."
Yeah, it's apparently very easy.
And it really makes me wonder what the hell she was waiting for.
I don't know. It's under the criminal code.
Cole?
Criminal Code RSC 1985 C-46. I'm doing this without my glasses, friends.
I was just gonna say.
Oh no, that's just what a culpable homicide is: murder or manslaughter or infanticide. A person commits culpable homicide when he causes. So yeah, it just says that. Oh God, people search for active serial killers in Alberta. Stop that!
You're sitting there like, no. I'm not looking for a dating site. Let me go.
So, on May 17th, 2024, justice.cg.ca says that one divorce has to reside in a Canadian province or territory for at least 1 year for an uncontested divorce against an imprisoned being. So he was imprisoned, obviously, for life, so then she could divorce him. It would be unattested, so I don't think he would have to sign divorce papers.
Yeah, that just seems like a long time to wait. You've been convicted 3 years. Now we'll do the divorce. Now that I know you're not getting out.
Right.
So obviously that is the first serial killer in all of Canada, or the first modernized serial killer. So now we'll talk about the most well-known serial killer. And when we say serial killer, we mean serial killer. People around the world have probably heard of him. He actually got his own dedicated episode, and I even have it written down. It was season 4, Criminal Minds, 2-part finale, was dedicated to the pig farmer, whose name is, or I should say was, Robert Picton. Now, the difference between the TV show, still fairly accurate, still depicted it well.
Loosely based on.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I don't know how better to say. It's like, okay, they did a good job depicting it, but like not in a, hey, this is really well done, you did fantastic, yeah, you should do it more often, like in a gruesome kind of way, they did a good depiction of it. Now, they did change some things because they had the murders happening in the Toronto Windsor corridor. Now, around here, it's just known as the corridor. It's the section of road that runs from all the way from Windsor up to Toronto. It's highly, highly used. It's our 401. Lots of things happen along here just because mostly what happens is car accidents.
I'm going to have to watch that episode. I love Criminal Minds.
Oh, I haven't watched it in years, but so that came out in 2009. I had been watching that show for years and had never known that they weren't coming up with imaginary crimes that were going on. They were using true crimes. Up until that point, I thought it was all just like someone's fucked up thoughts. Nope. It was at that point in time when they came to the Detroit-Windsor border and that the RCMP and OPP had asked them to come over and help find this murderer, that I was like, oh, hey, look, they're including Canada. My mom turned to me and went, yeah, dumbass. It's our most famous serial killer. And I just stopped the program, turned around and went, what?
Speak to me, a wise one.
Like, what you talking about? And she's like, this is real. I'm like, what do you mean it's real? She's like, they're real. I'm like, well, how many of them are real? And she's like, I think pretty much every episode. So I start Googling. I'm like, oh my God, these are all based off of true murders that happen. I'm like, oh, my world is shattered.
You're like, fuck.
That was exactly it. So he is known as our most notorious murderer. Now, where it truly happened was actually over in Vancouver.
That's why I said we connect.
I was going to say, it's now connecting in the brain. So he was, let's see if I put this all in the proper order that I can actually look at it. So we'll start off with the fact that he'd been doing it for 2 decades. And people had been going missing. They had been reported to the RCMP. The RCMP just, meh, yeah, sure, uh-huh. Part of the reason...
And why did the RCMP go meh?
That was what I was just getting to. So part of the reason why the RCMP was meh about it was, 1, he would take druggies. 2, they were street workers. And 3, quite a few of them were Indigenous women who are already a low populace in Canada as it is. It turns out that they only make up 4% of our population. Now, during this time, he was singling out Indigenous women, taking them back to his pig farm, and doing away with them. He was murdering them in different ways. I can remember seeing that it was different ways that he did it. But what was most disturbing about the pig farm is that he was feeding the women to said pigs, because pigs eat everything other than, I believe it's metal. I think it's the only thing.
Safe.
So you're like, my knees.
Well, at least my knees are.
Ha! They'll find me serial numbers. Ha! So we'll start this as the cops accidentally found him. So I don't know if you knew that. But
I was fully engaged as this story unfolded.
So obviously I was not.
Because I'm old.
I was going to say it's not a thing for me. But they found him by sheer dumb luck. Someone had reported him for an unlicensed shotgun. And that is what actually brought the police to his farm, which had a giant ass sign on it saying, no trespassers, no, basically no Jehovah Witnesses, no
solicitors,
cops, no solicitors, no nothing, no exceptions, private property, stay off. So the police went there, not to search him for the missing women that had gone missing over the years, but because of the unlicensed shotgun. Now, when they got there was when they found that, oh, hey, look, it's a pigsty, quite literally a pigsty, and then discovered, hey, there's a head over there. Hey, there's a hand over there. Hey, there's a foot over there. And then realized, oh, shit, there's multiple women here. So they went and promptly arrested him.
Oh, shit, indeed.
So he was arrested. Now, it's worth noting the fact that he was only properly convicted for, is it 6 women or 5? Hold on. He was convicted for killing Serena, and I apologize to the families and anyone who knew them, because I'm probably going to butcher the names. But there's Serena Abbotsway, Mona Wilson, Andrea Josbury, Brenda Wolfe, Georgina Papin, and Marnie Frey. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So yes, 6. So he was only convicted for killing 6 women. Full-fledged, those were the ones that he was convicted of and was sentenced to life in prison. However, let's see if I can scroll back up here and find how many.
46.
Was it 46? I would say I have 67. The official inquiry released in 2012 named 67 women who had been murdered or disappeared in the neighborhood for a 2-decade period before Mr. Picton's arrest in 2002.
And I think they said he was responsible for 46. That's how many samples of DNA they found on his farm.
I was just going to say after, because I had looked up the one thing. Where are you? Vancouver, where authorities conducted what at the time was the largest crime scene investigation in Canadian history. After 18 months, they found the remains of 33 women. So he, and if I remember correctly, he admitted, he actually said, he said that he killed 49, but they only found the remains of 33 and convicted him of 6. So clearly he should have gotten far more convictions added on. I mean, obviously it was life sentence after life sentence after life sentence. He was never going to get out anyways. However, again, he was another one of those full of himself. Well, cops got me, but look how many I killed.
Yeah.
And I didn't know until recently that Robert Picton died at the age of 74, June 1st, 2024. He got to live for decades after those murders of those poor women.
Yep.
However,
because Canada doesn't have the death penalty.
Which, you know, we'll round back to that because I agree with it. With it meaning you. But I hadn't heard about it because my TikTok feed and my mom's TikTok feed, 2 very different things. Mine have Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, Star Wars, bad jokes, all those fun things. My mom, on the other hand, has real news, medical things, some cute animals once in a while if I send her stuff.
Competitive eaters.
Yes, competitive eaters. So very different feeds, very different for
Love
you
you, Mama.
So, drastically different. So she knew about it immediately. I had no clue. I didn't hear a damn thing. But what I did love about that fact is that he died still in prison, but he died from injuries that he got from another inmate. So another inmate finally got to him and obviously did not enjoy his presence and just got him so damn bad that he ended up dead. And I am eternally grateful.
As we in the serial killer community like to call it, he was Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yes. He used the reference of one serial killer to refer to new ones. Were great.
Yeah. Yeah.
So he was. It's amazing to me to think that. So if he was arrested in 2002, so you basically think that there was some overlap between the time that he was around and when
Clifford
Olson
Olson.
was around at the same time, because that happened in 81 to 82, where that guy killed 11 young people. They just happened to not overlap. I mean, hell, they could have overlapped and just been like, well, you take the young kid, I'm taking the streetwalker over here. Good luck to you, and went their separate ways. But he got away with it for so many years. And the fact that he only got arrested by sheer dumb luck is what's truly horrifying. The fact that the RCMP and whatever, I don't know if they use only the RCMP over in Vancouver, in BC, like over here we have the OPP, the Ontario Provincial Police. I don't know if they have the same kind of thing over there,
I
or if
think
they
they
only
have
use the RCMP.
municipal police like we have.
Do they?
Like LaSalle has the LaSalle
Yep.
Police Department, Windsor has Windsor Police,
Mhm.
but overall we have the OPP. So I think
Yeah.
Vancouver probably has municipal police, but RCMP.
Honestly, that's what I was wondering. I'm not sure if every province follows the same thing. Like we have, because we have all three of them. We have our individual municipalities, then we have the provincial, and then we also have the RCMP.
Yeah.
In each place. So I'm just not sure if that's what every province does or if that's just an Ontario thing. So bear with us for that. But the fact that the RCMP at the time, and I know they came under huge scrutiny because of this particular case, and I'm willing to bet probably in part due to the Olson case, because people probably sat there and went, you let this happen 2 horrible times, essentially back to back, because you had the 11 consecutive missing kids and murders of them thereafter in 1 year. And during that same time, and for another 19 years following, you had Picton picking off women that were just randomly around and taking the claim of killing off, what was it, the 49? Him, and to me, if he's boasting that he killed 49, chances are high that he probably did indeed kill 49 women, if not more.
Yeah.
And you have only just found 33 of them.
Yeah.
Who deserve to come to have peace brought to their families, peace brought to their lives. And honestly, we may never find the other missing ones that are not part of the 33.
Yeah.
And I'm sorry for all of their families for that. And I sincerely hope that now the RCMP, specifically over there and the rest of the country, all take it seriously when they get reports like that.
Yeah.
Whether it's from an Indigenous person or if it's from a white bread Canadian or anything else, fucking take it seriously. Because they didn't, and they sat there on their asses for decades, women went missing along that corridor, and it was unsafe for everyone, and they didn't do their job. So I'm glad that they went under scrutiny for that, and I want to say that there were investigations into the RCMP, like specifically that location, and I'm glad for it because they obviously needed to get their shit together because they hugely failed the communities that they're supposed to be keeping safe.
It's a wonder they didn't pay him.
I'm shocked that, you know what, after knowing about the Olson thing and saying, oh yeah, well, they paid him 10 grand per body, I'm shocked that they didn't offer that to Picton
Yeah.
to say, like, okay, well, tell us where you put these 49 girls then, and we'll pay you, hell, even saying, hey, we'll pay you 5 grand a body. He would still out earn Olson and be able to sit there and say, well, I'm still the most well-known serial killer in all of Canadian history.
Wealthiest too.
No shit. But you think about it, it's in both cases, they're both modern. They both come from the same timeline, and they're both the biggest part of Canadian history for murder and serial killing.
Yeah.
So I find that fascinating that it's like, kind of makes you curious about what happened at that time. Was it just that it was that they got caught? that it was more documented? Did we honestly just not have it happening before that? Like, people were mentally more sound? Like, I'd be curious. I'd be curious to see that now.
A whole other episode, because I don't have the time or the strength to go into this one today. And it's also one of the reasons why I didn't pick it, because it is worthy of its own episode, is Paul Bernardo and Carla Homolka.
Oh, yes, yes. Yep.
And that Paul Bernardo is literally Ontario's version of Satan.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
The bad Satan, not the good one.
Yeah, I was going to say, we definitely have, there's definitely going to be more episodes like this, because there's so many of them, and both of us are fascinated by the murder aspect, as most people are. And there's one that I want to do too, that we'll probably do, like, we can do like an episode where it's Carla and him, and also this other one where it's a 12-year-old girl and a 22-year-old man who are dating and sleeping together, and they kill her entire family so they can be together.
I remember that.
I would say I remember snippets of it. I don't remember all the details, but my friend was telling me about it. She's like, "Oh, you need to look into this." I'm like, "It's going to be a different episode," because that's definitely getting looked into.
Now, we've obviously talked about serial killers and the amount of victims that they had.
Mm-hmm.
And pig farmer Robert Pickton, or the Butcher of Vancouver, as he's also referred to as, he preyed mostly on Indigenous. We don't even have this. What's the word I'm looking for? The ability to address the number of graves that they found of Indigenous children in former Catholic sites.
Yeah, I don't even know what the numbers are up to for that.
I think it's in the 5,000s now.
I thought that's what it was. I was going to say, I know that they like blew past.
So, you want to know who the biggest serial killer is in Canada? It's a Catholic church.
Fuck. Screw just Canada. That would be the world.
Well, in Canada, they went after the Indigenous children, literally stripped them from their families, tortured, raped, and killed.
Yep.
Because they didn't believe in the way the Catholic Church believed. That's a thing to chew on.
Yep. I was going to say, I'm fully in agreement with that, where it's hands down, that's definitely the biggest serial killer. Because you think about it, it's different, multiple different events, multiple different victims, spread out over years. And what's sad is that, or what's sadder, or adds to the sadness, is that it's all done in a remarkably short amount of time.
Yep.
Where they just came in and they were like, bam, that was it. Because they actually, you've seen it because you watched 1883, the Yellowstone 1883. So, while I didn't particularly like that.
Which had me yelling at the TV, mind you. Shit like that gets me so worked up, because I am so, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I am so anti-church. I am so anti-religion. when I see shit like that, even though I know those people were acting and that poor girl really wasn't beaten and punched, I'm like, son of a bitch on the TV. My husband's like, you've got to calm down.
He's like, it's not actually happening.
Take a blood pressure pill. So yeah.
Well, for anyone who hasn't watched it, like, I mean, there's numerous documentaries out there now. I know there was one that one of my mom's clients told us about, and it was talking about, I can't remember which church it was, but it was one of the churches in Canada, I think, where the walls had been removed, like they opened up the walls and found the bodies hiding inside of it in the church, where they're like, oh yeah, here's another young Indigenous kid murdered by one of the priests, whatever. And but in 1883, like anyone who enjoys the Yellowstone, the Yellowstone storylines, like, for me, it was a boring season for that. Like, it was too slow moving, but that's the TV show as a whole. However, the storyline for, like, the native girl who was trying to run away and just go home, and being told that she can't speak her language, she can never go home, she's got to be a housewife, and this is how you clean, this is how you do all of it, you'll say the Lord's Prayers. Or she was being beaten brutally by the sisters and the priest, and then being sexually assaulted by the other priest, or the other nun, who had her wicked ways. It's like, Jesus fucking Christ. Like, and knowing that all of that is based off of actual history that did happen, like, yep, this all just despicable. And like you said, definitely the number one mass serial killings were done by the Catholic churches. 100%.
Yeah.
And to round back to your point earlier, yes, I agree we should have the death penalty. I know people are against it, but to me, if you've done something so heinous and it is proven, or it's you've admitted to it, Olson and Picton, why should we have to pay as taxpayers? Why should our money go towards keeping them alive in a prison they're never supposed to get out of anyways? There's overcrowding, and all they're doing is they have fan bases, they have freaking money coming in, they make books, they do movies, all these kind of things. Like, nope, nope. Put them in the electric chair, shoot them up with the needles, hang them, whatever. Freaking do it. Get rid of them. They're never going to be reformed. Like, obviously, there should be separate jails, so to speak, for here's like the blue collar guys who it's like, okay, the ones who've gone around cheating people out of money. Yes, they should be arrested and do their time, but I don't think they should be put in with the murderers, because obviously two very different scenarios, and the one does not equate to the other. Those who are 100% convicted of being murderers, or in Canada, we don't have true to form life sentences. Right. We have 25 to life, which you can get out for good behavior even sooner. So you can murder someone. So say you murdered someone at 25, at 50 you could be back out in the world free as a bird. With obviously your parole
maybe
issues.
Sooner, because they do the 25 to life, but you can be out in 15 with good behavior.
Mm-hmm. So there's not really a good discouraging for, hey, you probably shouldn't murder that person. Like, you don't get a true to form life sentence. You just get 25 years. Like, okay, well, you stole, we'll say 7 decades from someone, but you'll only serve 25. It's okay, probably less. That's fine. To me, that's not a good deterrent. That doesn't stop people from doing it. And if you're a serial killer, then just do away with them. There's no point in keeping them around. There's really not. Robert Picton wasn't going to reform, get out, and go, I'll never kill again. He probably, had he ever been able to get out, he probably would have gotten out and just continued on killing. Tried to hide the bodies even better. That would have been the only thing. So why bother paying for him to be in jail?
Yeah. Why should he have a roof over his head, a bed to sleep in, and 3 square meals? Now, before we say goodbye, let me gross you all out. As Taylor mentioned, Robert Pickton fed his victims to his pigs. His pig farm was a family business that he inherited. He was training to be a butcher when he left and took over the family farm. Were you eating pork in Canada? About that. So have a good day.
And on that note, we will come to a close and say we hope you guys all have a great week. We promise we are working on more content coming your way. We're just waiting until after my vacation. So that way we can do
Somebody's got to go on vacation.
Yeah. So there will be more stuff coming your way. We promise. We had a meeting about it. We talked through it. We got it in the bag. Don't worry. We're going to do it.
It's in the bag,
yo. And also, because of said vacation, there will not be an episode next week because I will not be here to record it. I will be busy at a Renaissance fair. So until we meet again with more gruesome things.
Maybe I will make videos of the magnificent new floor I'm putting.
Ooh.
Ripping up my carpet and putting in laminate.
Roar. It's mixiness right there.
Oh, how did you spend Labor Day?
Yeah, get new flooring. Click.
All right. So have a good week, everyone. We'll talk to you
guys
soon.
Later.